We will now have a presentation by Hannah Lutgen discussing the floriculture extension projects in Maui County. Hannah is the Floriculture and Landscape Junior Extension Agent for the University of Hawaii at Manoa's College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources. Hannah provides consultations, educational programs, and applied research. She is based in Maui County, and her program focuses on integrated pest and disease management, soil and plant health, and variety trailing in support of floriculture and landscape industries statewide. She has a Bachelor of Science degree in Sustainable Horticulture and extensive work background as a conservation specialist, a cut flower grower, florist, and landscape professional. She is beyond grateful for HFNA support and to be assisting flower growers and florists. Hannah, welcome.
Thanks, Glenn. Thank you for the introduction.
You're welcome.
Okay, hello, everyone. I just wanted to start off by thanking HFNA for this opportunity to present today. It's an honor to be here. I just wanted to start off today with a brief explanation of my background. I do have a degree in sustainable horticulture. I have 10 years of experience farming. I'm in horticulture, and I created and managed cut flower community supported agriculture, which is this photo below. I also formerly before this position, I was a floral designer. So I incorporated a wide variety of tropicals, beautiful orchids, temperate flowers, and learned a lot about the floral industry and the uses of particular plants. These are just a few examples of the designs I created. I've also worked for the past 3 years as a conservation planner for USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service in partnership with the Hawaii Association of Conservation Districts. So there I helped farmers, ranchers, and foresters best manage their natural resources. So I did have opportunity to meet and assist several cut flower growers, ranchers, and edible crop farmers. And previously, I just made 1 year today as a junior extension agent for the College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources. So the objectives of today is just to share a brief update on current projects and future projects, as well as what I've been doing for the past year. Currently, I'm working with the import replacement plant project. I have one Proteaceae maintenance trial, and I'm assisting as a collaborator Dr. Chang's and Dr. Philip Weisson's Holoscale project. And in the future, I hope to start a eucalyptus variety trials. So the import replacement project, I just want to give you a brief history about this program. So back in 2012, I believe, HDOA was proposing to create the Myrtaceae import ban because the Puccinia or Ohia rust was identified. And as a result of that, they're trying to protect new strains of Puccinia rust from coming into Hawaii and affecting the Ohia. So CTAHR, in collaboration with HARC, Hawaii Agricultural Research Center, and HDOA, CTAHR established a collection of import replacement materials of plants at the Kula Agricultural Research Station, also called MARC, to assist growers and have an alternative source of plants, mother stock plants, if you will, to provide and grow locally if the ban were to be implemented. So that collection is still here in Maui, and thanks to a grant from Maui County Farm Bureau, the objectives are to first survey growers to find out and identify which cultivars are most desirable, and then focus on those to maintain and propagate for future distribution to growers. Also, another important aspect is doing a Hawaii Pacific weed risk assessment. Chuck or Charles Chimera assisted with this, so I'm grateful for his help. And finally, just to maintain and propagate these rare and unique plants for Hawaii. So the first part of this project is we created an import replacement plant survey, and we asked, this was distributed in May. We asked growers and florists, as well as botanical gardens and homeowners, to identify the top most desirable cultivars. In this import replacement plant collection, there is at least 36 varieties, and due to limited funding, we need to try to prioritize which ones are most desirable so we can keep those alive for future trialing and propagation. So I just wanted to briefly share the results of the survey. So the majority of participants were floral designers and commercial growers. Other people also participated, so nurseries, home gardeners, and a botanical garden. People from Hawaii Island, Oahu, Kauai, and Maui all participated in the survey, and there's 26 participants total. One of the survey questions asked, out of these 36 cultivars, please identify the top 10 cultivars that are most desirable to you in your business. So the results, unanimously, wax flower was the most popular plant. In general, identified, it's very commonly used. It's a great dried flower. It's great for hakules. It's long lasting. It's a good filler. So that's a very popular plant, followed by Grevillea moonlight and the Australian tea or Leptospermum were also popular. Just wanted to briefly update you. I'm sure you're all aware, but while the survey was released and people were participating, HDOA did enact the Myrtaceae import ban on May 15th. So here, it's available online. But basically, the purpose of the Myrtaceae import ban is to prevent new additional strains of Australopicinia or Pusinia sidii, also known as ohia or guava rust, from coming into the islands and becoming more virulent and affecting ohia. And the whole purpose of this is to really protect the native forest and the watershed and the ecology of Hawaii. There are some exceptions. So as of May 15th, people can no longer import Myrtaceae plants, plant parts. However, there are 4 exceptions. If you import, it's okay to import dried material, surface sterilized seeds, as long as it's approved by the plant quarantine branch, or tissue culture plants grown in sterile media, or if you are an importer interested in importing plants for propagation, you just need to go online and fill out a permit, get it approved, and then you can start importing. So a brief update, while we were doing this survey, thanks to JB Friday and two biologists on Maui, we had a brief visual assessment for rust on the import replacement plants. This is a few of the results. I also interviewed some growers that were trialing this, but Camelasium, or waxflower, and for whatever reason, the purple cultivars seem to be most susceptible to the rust. So that's important to note. The other species of Camelasium, so the white cultivars, they had some rust, but it seemed manageable or controllable. And the remaining Myrtaceae plants in the import replacement plant collection, there was no rust observed. Again, this was just a visual assessment. It's not scientific, but this may help as well as future trialing to determine which varieties are most susceptible to the rust. So thanks to Charles Tremere, also known as Chuck, he conducted the Hawaii Pacific Weed Risk Assessment, which evaluates different traits of each plant based on its nature, whether it is naturalized in Hawaii or invasive in Hawaii or elsewhere in the world, and its seeding and propagative history. So out of the assessment, out of 36 plants, 5 were considered high risk, 8 were in the evaluate category, 17 were rated low risk, and 5 were unassessed due to ambiguous taxonomy or lack of information. Some of these interesting import replacement plants are hybrids or cultivars, and we don't have the specific taxonomic information needed to complete the assessment. The high-risk varieties were Leptospermum, also known as Australian tea tree. So it was rated high risk because the parent species is believed to be Leptospermum Sakurata, which can be invasive. And basically, the traits of high-risk plants is that they can tolerate many soil types. The seeds may persist in the soil or build up in a seed bank. It can resprout after fire. It can hybridize readily, and it reaches maturity rapidly. And the fruit or seeds are easily dispersed by wind or people or animals. So for all this should be posted on plantpono.org. This is a great website if you're interested in learning more about a particular plant. Okay, so the following plants were rated evaluate, meaning it could have the potential to be invasive, but please keep a watchful eye and monitor, look at, is this plant sprouting from seed? Is it propagating vegetatively? Does it have suckers? So these would be bottlebrush, kunzea, some other different species of Leptospermum, and then myrtle. The remaining import replacement plants were all rated low risk, meaning that there's no reports of it becoming naturalized or surviving in the wild easily or becoming invasive either in Hawaii or elsewhere in the world. And some of these plants actually prefer more part shade to sun, and there's no reports of it spreading vegetatively. So these would be considered safe to plant. I think it's important to note the Camelasium or waxflower. Unfortunately, the report wasn't completed because we're missing taxonomic information. However, if it does belong to Camelasium unicatum, if that's the parent or relative, then it is most likely low risk, because Camelacea unicatum is low risk. Grevillea moonlight, again, we couldn't find information what species this belonged to, so it remains unassessed. However, future trialing should help gather information whether or not it's invasive or has the potential to spread. Lastly, the import replacement project is still ongoing. Currently, we have an independent propagator who has the plants. She's taking great care of them, taking cuttings, and as soon as they are rooted and healthy, showing no symptoms or signs of rust, there will be a future distribution and trialing. Okay, on to Proteaceae. So Proteaceae, as many of you know, is a very valuable market. In 2017, 21 growers statewide sold $1.1 million worth of cut Protea or pincushion leucospermum stems. So it's a very important and unique crop to Hawaii. And the Maui Agricultural Research Center, or MARC, is home to this unique rare collection, which is probably one of the largest collections in the world. And it's also historically this collection's very valuable and critical because of the breeding program by University of Hawaii. There is some problems, however. Many Protea here at the agricultural station and throughout the island are dying rapidly. In one terrace, Terrace 5, there was a 75% death rate this year alone. So we need to take action and identify which pests and pathogens are contributing to this plant death, and hopefully develop management strategies or start trialing or experimenting on ways to improve plant health and reduce disease. So we are working on the collaborators thanks to Dr. Lisa Keith, Dr. Roxana Myers, and USDA PBARC. I'm working on a pest identification and maintenance of Proteaceae collection with the objectives to identify pathogens to the genus level and then maintain this rare, unique Protea collection for future trialing and research. So these are pictures of some of the disease sampling that occurred. Took pictures, several Protea and leucospermum or pincushions were showing symptoms of disease. So I harvested that and sent it to the PBARC lab. The preliminary results identified by Dr. Lisa Keith and her team of experts found that Neofusicoccum, they isolated Neofusicoccum, which you can see some of the symptoms are a discolored pith or dark stained vascular system, and then the leaf spot with a pinpoint tan center, that's characteristic of Neofusicoccum. Sakurata was also isolated in leaf samples. So this is an interesting genera of fungi, in that it has this distinct black line and usually a gray or brown tip leaf necrosis, but this distinct black line helps identify this fungi, as well as these marginal leaf spots without a gray center. Fusarium was also identified. In the field after planting, this was maybe only a year old, this Protea, and within a week, the whole plant starts to wilt and die. So took out the sample, the roots and soil, and Fusarium was identified. So this is a soil-borne fungi. and they identified isolated Fusarium in the roots and soil. A brief update from Dr. Roxana Myers. She tested the soil samples, and root knot nematodes were isolated in a few of the Protea and Leucospermum soil samples. We are still evaluating whether this was cultivar, variety, or location related, as well as the effects to plant health and disease development. So again, the purpose of this project, and this project is funded by Maui County Farm Bureau, is to identify those pathogens and continue to maintain the rare Protea collection at the Kula Egg Station. So we continue to prune, propagate as needed, apply different amendments, and collect data. I recently submitted, in collaboration with USCIP BARC, Dr. Lisa Keith and Dr. Roxana Myers, a Proteaceae, another grant, which will hopefully continue the pathogenicity testing, as well as lab and field testing. So Holoscale. The Holoscale is an interesting insect. It was first identified in Maui, in Hana, Maui, in 1995. It is now on Maui and Molokai, and it is contained in Oahu. However, this scale insect is a pest. It can cause necrosis, yellow chlorosis, stunting. It reduces the leaf blade length, and it can cause premature plant death. And hala is a very important plant to the Hawaiian culture as well as Pacific Islander cultures. It's very important for weaving. It's a great floriculture plant, so you can use it in floral arrangements. It lasts a long time. You can bend it. It's a very pliable, useful plant. So controlling the holoscale is important, as this small insect easily spreads by plant tissue, infected diseased plant tissue, or humans and animals. So the white insect, this is the adult females that have a waxy, hard coat around them, and they are sessile, meaning that they stay in place for the rest of their life. And then the little tiny black dots are the corolla stage. It's the first instar, or the immature stage. This is where they crawl around looking for food, and then they start attaching, insert their mouth parts, and feeding on the plant tissues, the leaves, fruits, and the crown. And you can find them both on the front and the back leaves. So thanks to Dr. Chang and Dr. Philip Wyson, I was invited to help assist with their project. So this is their project, and I am just a collaborator. Basically, the trial consists of 11 testing and evaluating the effects of 11 different pesticides to control or suppress the holoscale. So currently we are still collecting data, analyzing results, and I'm just here to help with data collection. We'll keep you posted as to other updates. And lastly, I would just like to thank all of the collaborators I've been working with, Dr. Chang, Dr. Philip Wyson, Lisa Keith, Roxana Myers and her team, Lionel, Kathy, as well as Charles, Tessie, and I did want to give a special thanks to HFNA, as well as the ornamental agents and everyone at University of Hawaii Manoa. And is there any questions?
Yes, Hannah, we have a question regarding Protea. And it says, do you see a lot of insect pests or damage on Protea? And if so, what are the main insect pests of Protea?
Great question. So on Protea, we do see mealybugs is a common pest on kings and queens of Protea and minks. Also, sometimes we see the light brown apple moth feeding within the flower bracts. So those are the main pests of Protea. Pam, who is a farm tech at Maui Agricultural Research Station, she did develop a good protocol, a spray protocol and management technique for the mealybugs. And if you're interested, please email me. Happy to share that information with you.
Okay. And have other commercial growers have contacted you about seeing the disease symptoms that you submitted for analysis?
Yes, absolutely. I have started testing. I'm taking soil samples and plant tissue samples. These same diseases or symptoms, visual symptoms, I am seeing it throughout Maui, and I'm trying to also collect samples, and catalog where these diseases are. Right now, I'm primarily focusing at the Kula Egg Research Station, but I am assisting and here to assist any growers with disease questions.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation, and we look forward to your continued research and updates in the future.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.